All right, young scholars, apologies for my brevity. This week we are going to be going through information covered within unit number 4. So unit 4's discussion question revolves around the types of forecasts. What are the basic types? What are their strengths and weaknesses? As I mentioned, with this week having Thanksgiving on Thursday night, it makes sense to go ahead and try and get your work done earlier in the week as opposed to putting it off later in the week. For that discussion question, you're more than welcome to prioritize the concepts discussed on pages 211 through 222 to support your answer, whether it be traditional forecasting or the other specific types discussed. Then this week, with the case study, focuses on Tires for You, Inc. Basically focuses on primarily calculations regarding forecasting. So you're asked to read that case, Tires for You, Inc., and answer the following questions. Calculate a forecast using a simple 3-month moving average. Calculate a forecast using a 3-period weighted moving average, using the weights 60%, 30%, and 10%. For the most recent period would be 60%. The second most recent would be 30%. And the third most recent would be 10%. Then the third question, calculate a forecast using the exponential smoothing method. Assume the forecast for period 1 is 9,500 and use alpha of 0.40. And then lastly, based on the 3 methods used to calculate a forecast, which method produced the best forecast? Why? What measures of the forecast error did you use? And how could you improve upon this forecast? You're going to use, for question 1, your 3-month moving average as December 2019, 11,130 tires used. November 2019, 11,599 tires used. And October 2019, 10,193 tires used. Then for question 2, use the same 3-month moving average as I mentioned above, but assign December a weight of 60%, November a weight of 30%, and October a weight of 10%. For question 3, your calculation should be your forecast equals 0.4, which is the alpha you're given, times 11,130, your December 2019 tires used, plus 0.4, which is your alpha again, times 9,500, which is your assumed forecast. That combined will give you your new forecast. Then for question 4, support your argument, potentially using the same ideas you posed in your discussion post as to why one forecast option is stronger than any other type of approach. So I wanted to point out that on the discussions, we're still getting replies that are no good. As I mentioned, I just want one strong initial post. Most of you are now doing that. And one strong response post. Most of you are still doing these 5 horrible, useless responses. Like, hey, I agree. That doesn't add anything to the conversation, and you're not going to get points for it. We're now in the 4th unit starting tomorrow, so hopefully you start doing what you're being asked to do with these responses, rather than continue to have your grade be lowered and lowered and lowered because you're not keeping up with what you need to be doing. As a general rule of thumb, a response like this is not helpful and shouldn't even be here. It adds nothing to the conversation. It's just a waste of everybody's time to look at it. Your your replies should continue to drive the conversation. Somebody should want to actually respond to it. It makes sense to respond to it. There's a purpose to responding to it. Nearly all of you have been given feedback as to whether or not the comments are good or not, as well as I've sent out announcements. Hey, pattern your discussion after this person, that person. There was at least 7 or 8 young scholars that I pointed to that you can utilize as a example to utilize or replicate with respect to your response. So here in Unit 4, Chapters 7 and 8 will be covered. So I'm going to go back and add some additional content based on my own knowledge and experience to add to these 2 lectures as well. So forecasting product demand is one approach used to meet customer needs. There are both internal and external drivers of demand. Each department has a forecast geared towards them. Marketing forecasts determine whether to add a new product, retire an old product, and what to promote, for example. Salespeople will forecast future sales. Supply chain managers will forecast production, and accounting may even forecast future budgets. The 4 most common forecasting tools are considered time series models called naive approach, moving average, weighted moving average, and exponential smoothing, as you'll learn this week. Naive approach is simply using last period's demand and assuming next period will be the same. Next to no one uses that because it's inappropriate and may cost you money in the long run. Moving average is using the average of a time period to determine the next period. For example, averaging sales from January, February, and March in order to determine April's forecast. Weighted moving average is similar to moving average, but you're assigning weights to each period. For example, assigning a weight of 50% to March, 30% to February, and 20% to January in determining your April forecast. Whereas exponential smoothing is a type of weighted moving average using exponents that give more weight to recent events and less weight to older events. So you'll see that with the alpha assigned with respect to your case study. You want to focus on the fact that there are 2 types of demand. Independent demand means that there's a product ready for purchase, whereas dependent demand is the opposite. It's linked to demand or production of another product. Okay, somebody wants to buy something. Okay, we'll make that product then. Which then jumps us into order management. Order management refers to the set of activities that occur between the time a company receives an order from the customer and the time a warehouse is notified to ship the goods to fill that order. The process is order placed, order processes, order is prepped, and then order is loaded and delivered. As a result, businesses focus on CRM, or customer relationship management, by strengthening the relationship of their business and customers in the hopes of increasing profits. They do this by being timely in their delivery, dependable with their products, communicating any issues, and being flexible in order to meet customer needs. The primary customer service issue relates to delivery. Lost deliveries, late deliveries, damaged deliveries, or incorrect deliveries. How a company resolves these issues influences future orders. If you have a replacement or they refund your money, you're more likely to work with that company again. And lastly, companies will often have an order management system which allows information to be communicated between buyers and sellers relating to product orders. Think about when you place an order on Amazon. You know when it's been shipped, you know where it is, etc. If you utilize Amazon Prime as an example, you know that your product will arrive fairly quickly, within a day or two. So again, as I pointed out with this module 4, even though everything is not due until Monday the 27th, like always, because of the time frame related to the Thanksgiving holiday, you may want to go about creating or completing your assignments earlier than usual. And as always, if there are any questions, I'm available to be emailed or send me an inbox message, and I will get back to you as soon as I can.